UFC 282 just wrapped up. Giving you my little post-fight reaction, little breakdown of the fights. Crazy fights, a lot of bangers going into it, but then we ended the fights with a lot of controversy. So again, as always, I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. But starting from the bottom, going up to the top, let's start with the first fight of the night. South African phenom, maybe Cameron Saaiman going off against Stephen Koslow. Saaiman looked good. I thought, on the other hand, I thought Koslow looked good in the first round. I thought he won that first round. But then into the second round, we get a illegal strike from Cameron Saaiman, a knee to a downed opponent, hit Koslow real hard. And I think the fight definitely could have been called there and maybe disqualified Saaiman. I don't know how that would have worked, but the camera was right in Koslow's face. And he was saying when the ref was going, do you want to continue? Do you want to continue? Koslow was going like, oh, I don't want to be a bitch, but man, that was messed up. So I think his adrenaline got to him, right? He's also debuting as well as Saaiman. This is a pay-per-view. He doesn't want to go out that way, but I'm sure he was rocked as could be, probably seen 3 Cameron Saimans. And he manned up, got back in the fight, but it was not good for him. His strike started to get a little sloppy. Saaiman started connecting. His movement definitely was depleted, Koslow's. And then Saaiman just capitalized. So I'm sure not how he wanted to win that fight, kind of with that strike. I'm sure no one will really think about that. But he capitalized, man. He looked good, and he ended up finishing Koslow in the third, kind of late in the third. Yeah, 4 minutes. I'm looking at it. He outstruck Koslow 5-1 pretty much. But like I said, after that knee, it was really all downhill for Koslow. So tough one for him. But hey, Cameron Saaiman did get the W, coming out on top. Next fight up, TJ Brown. I think he's from Louisiana or Arkansas. I don't know. He trains with Bryce Mitchell. So they're boys. They're on the same fight card. So, he was hyped up going up against Erik Silva, the Contender Series guy. Again, here we go. We always talk about this. If you do watch the Geeks vids, we do talk about Contender Series fades. These guys winning on the Contender Series, got a little hype around them, coming into the UFC, facing a dog, facing a vet, someone who's been there like TJ Brown. And TJ Brown showed him what's up. He welcomed him to the UFC, bloodied him up a bit. TJ Brown was a little bit bloody. And TJ Brown really outdogged him in this one from the start, rocked him in the first exchange, and then really wrestled him pretty well. Erik Silva did have more takedowns. I'm looking at it, 3 takedowns to TJ Brown's 2. But TJ Brown ended up capitalizing on one of the takedowns late in the third and got that arm triangle on Erik Silva. He was kind of fighting with it, and then once he got that leg over, really just locked it in on Erik Silva. So good vet dog fight, gritty fight from TJ Brown. Shout out to him. Next up, speaking about dogs, speaking about gritty, we got Billy Q versus Alexander Hernandez, and this one was a banger from start to finish, and it ended semi-quickly. Late into round 2, we got the Billy Q standing TKO, I believe. I'll have to watch that back, but I think it was standing TKO. But Alexander Hernandez, pretty typical performance from Alexander Hernandez, who comes out strong. Mind you, this was his debut at featherweight, so he did have gas issues. He would gas out in fights up at lightweight. And I thought that would have a toll on him in this fight, and it did. He started real strong against Billy Q, and I'd argue that he won the first round against Billy Q. He cut Billy Q right around here, maybe here, and was gushing blood. But later in the fight, later in the second round, mid-second round, Alexander Hernandez started slowing down. Billy Q kept the pace up right in his face, clinch positions, wrestling positions, stuff like that, and ended up tagging him. Great fight by Billy Q, but man, I had Billy Q round 3 or decision, and he got it done with 30 seconds left into round 2. So I was punching the couch, but good fight from Billy Q. Kind of what we see, just dogging out fights, constant pressure, constant pace, and ended up real well for him. Knocked out Alexander Hernandez, who, like I said, looked real good. So we'll see where he goes from there. Maybe ranked opponent. I don't think he's ranked right now. So maybe good fight from Billy Q. Going up into the prelims card. Banger. Chris Curtis versus Joaquin Buckley. The Geeks. We had one loss, maybe two loss. I think we picked Erik Silva. He lost TJ Brown, and then we ended up picking Joaquin Buckley. And Joaquin Buckley, he looked good, man. He was outstriking Chris Curtis. He was outpacing Chris Curtis. He was out moving Chris Curtis, just because Chris Curtis is so stationary and so defensive, in the sense of he's a good counter striker, which we did see in this fight. But he would kind of like, Buckley would come at him with a combo, boom, 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 and Chris Curtis, instead of like head movement, he would just shell up and kind of back up. So if Buckley wouldn't have got caught, would have stuck to the game plan, I think he would have came away with this decision. Just because if you're going up against Chris Curtis, of course, what do I know? But just from a viewer's perspective, if you stay active and pick your shots and stay around the octagon, which Buckley was doing, you can beat Chris Curtis, because he is a defensive fighter. He's not really attacking you, right? He's really only doing that damage once you're in the pocket with him. And Joaquin Buckley got a little bit of karma. He got his kick caught by Chris Curtis in the second round, mid-second round. Chris Curtis caught the kick. And all Buckley needed to do was repeat himself, man. Jump up, spin, boom, kick him in the face. No, obviously I'm kidding. But Chris Curtis caught the kick and landed a 2 right down the pipe, put Buckley out flat on his back. Buckley was out fully. Chris Curtis woke him back up and then put him back out again. So brutal finish, good fight for Chris Curtis. And I guess he stuck to his game plan, worked out. He really didn't change up game plans the whole fight. Like I said, I felt like it could have went to decision if Buckley didn't get caught, but he got caught. So moving up into the card, next fight, Edman, the Golden Boy Shabazyan versus Dulcha Lungiambula. And Shabazyan, he put on a clinic. I thought he looked real good. He outstruck him pretty much 3-1, maybe 2-1, 60-26. So right in the middle there. Excuse me. Little burp. But he looked good. Dulcha really didn't pose too much of a threat. He was kind of throwing bombs, and maybe some of them hit Shabazyan, but he didn't look like he was ever in trouble. But then Dulcha, kind of like Alexander Hernandez, he's known to gas. And like I said, he was throwing bomb after bomb, which does take a toll on you. Ended up really gassing him, not really gassing him out, but definitely slowing him down to where Shabazyan started picking his shots more and more and more and landing them more. And ultimately, he got a knee, threw him up against the cage, and then pounded that boy out. So good fight by Shabazyan. Good to see him back in the win column. He did come in the UFC, very hyped up. I think he was undefeated. Took a couple L's, but good to see him back in the win column. Next up, Biggie Boy versus Chris, the Philly boy, Daukaus. And Daukaus landed a punch. That is all I can say about that one. Landed one punch, 1-for-1, and then got destroyed. I think we all saw that one coming. I think all the geeks saw it coming. I think Goosey, if you're watching this, Goosey wanted Chris Daukaus, but and thought Chris Daukaus. But Rozenstruik showed him what's up and dropped that boy hot. So early in the first round, under 30 seconds, and let me see, 23 seconds to be exact, made quick work of him. Heavyweights hit different, man. I think Chris Curtis, maybe lower weight classes, maybe. Hopefully stay around. I like him. He's a cool dude. Next up, we got the phenom Raul Rosas Jr. going up against Jay Perrin, who Jay Perrin had a lot of trash talk going in this fight, but I think he was building it up. I'm sure he had a lot of pressure going on to him into this fight, fighting an 18-year-old kid. I think he's the youngest guy ever to fight in the UFC. And Raul Rosas made quick work of him, lived up to the hype, kind of. Contender series guy, but not the contender series fade. Didn't look too good on the feet, but don't give him too harsh of a time because he is young and he is not a striker. He is a ground game guy. Shout out to him. He got the back early, made a transition to the back, grabbed the back, and then ultimately ended up choking him out. I think it was a rear naked or maybe like a neck crank, some sort of submission like that, but made quick work of him. Interested to see where he'll go. I think he's going to be ended up moving up in weight classes, maybe on next fight, but definitely in his career. He looked pretty big in there. So I'm sure once he really fills out, he will move up weight classes. So into the main card. Sad main card for me. Sad main card. I was a Bryce Mitchell fan, and Topuria put it on him. Even though I'm a Bryce Mitchell fan, toot my own horn, I picked Topuria to kind of run through him in this fight, and for the most part, he did. Topuria, he did have a black eye at the end, and Bryce Mitchell did hit him with some shots, but Topuria I thought he was never in danger in that fight. He had it all on the ground. Bryce Mitchell had weak takedown attempts. He went 1 for 9 on takedowns, and it wasn't even like he was like setting takedowns up with the strikes. He was kind of like in the middle of the octagon and just shoot for double legs, shooting for single legs at weird times towards Topuria. Could really just shrug him off and not worry about it. And going into this fight, we thought Bryce Mitchell's stand-up game's improving, blah, blah, blah. Looked good against Barbosa, and I think he dropped Barbosa. But Barbosa was scared of that ground game, scared of the takedowns. And we see what happens when these fighters don't really care about the takedowns, because Topuria shrugged takedowns off and was just all stand-up. Was kind of like, what's up, Bryce? Let's do this on the feet. And his striking looked real good. Bryce Mitchell had a couple shots, but like I said, Topuria never felt in danger. I never really thought Bryce Mitchell was not like in advantage, but never thought he was like, I don't even know. He was never in control of the fight, I guess you could say. Like he looked like one of those kids wide-eyed. He had a rough night. He got the shit beat out of him, to say it nicely. Shout out to Bryce. Love you, boy. But you got beat up. Good fight. Topuria is the real deal. I think that's more than Bryce Mitchell stinking. I think Topuria is the real deal. Moving up in the card. Darren Till versus Dricus du Plessis. And that one hurt. I have no idea what happened in that first round. Dricus, quick takedown shot a takedown quick, pinned him up against the fence, and Darren just wasn't doing anything. And I feel like in the moment we're going, what the hell is going on? He was getting peppered with shots, peppered enough to where, the ref thought about stepping in, and it wouldn't have been a bad stoppage. I think you can argue maybe, but he gets out of it, starts showing some shades of old Till with some good elbows, lefts down the middle, good like jumping back and forth, good kind of footwork. But then, the thing with that was he could never get going, because every time he would show those shades and maybe it looked like Dricus was gassing out, Dricus would just shoot a takedown, and Darren Till had zero takedown defense. And it wasn't even like Dricus would shoot it and they'd fight and they'd fight and they'd fight and then he'd take him down. Dricus would just shoot and take down right away. So when Till would get those moments of success, he would just get taken down right away, kill the momentum. And tough night to be a Till fan, man. I thought round 2, man, I thought we were gonna get a Till knockout. I was shaking my hands, rubbing my hands, not shaking my hands. But he looked bad. Ultimately, overall, he looked bad. And I was really looking forward to this fight. And I think he tore his ACL. This is so quick after after the fights. I'm doing this late at night. All that official stuff isn't out yet. So if it does come out, he tore his ACL, that makes sense. I'm interested to know when he did it. But man, that hurt. That hurt. I was really hoping for Darren Till, man. Really hoping for Darren Till. But good fight by Du Plessis. He's showing that he is the real deal. Good ground game, good ground control. You know, you could argue Darren Till has no ground game. But dude, you're training with Russians, bro. Like, shouldn't your ground game be good? Right? Guess not. We'll see where Darren Till goes. I hope he doesn't get cut. I hope maybe he goes down 170. He always talked about how tough that weight cut was for him. So maybe no 170. Maybe he's the new gatekeeper. Maybe he's the new Sam Alvey. You know, we don't know. Ah, Darren Till, man. Darren Bloody Till, yeah. Next fight, up the card. Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Alex Morono. Alex Morono looked real good considering this was supposed to be Ponzinibbio versus Lawler. Lawler falls out, and Morono hops in on 5 days' notice. Looked real good coming in on 5 days' notice. It was a catch weight, so it's not like he had to drain himself. And he was looking good, man, round one. And I think even round two, he was piecing up Ponzinibbio, rocking Ponzinibbio. But Ponzinibbio has this. He's got this RPG in his right hand that just throws bombs. And we saw it hit Morono late, mid round three. So he's never really out of these fights, even when he is getting rocked. He's always got that in his back pocket. And Morono's kind of like Buckley. Kind of like the Buckley fight. He was playing the game well. His game plan was working. He was looking good. And then he got caught. And Ponzinibbio hit him. And he gave one of these faces after he got hit in that first punch. And then was out of it. He was like, if you're Ponzinibbio, he hit me. And he was like looking away, not in it. He wasn't there. Ponzinibbio hit him with another RPG right down the middle after that and ultimately knocked him out. And you could see in the post-fight when they were standing there, you know, when the refs raised their hands, whatnot after the fight, he was sitting there and he was going, man, I had that fight won, but just got caught. So good to see Ponzinibbio back in the win column. You know, all this crap he's been through and stuff. So good to see him back. Next fight. Paddy the Baddie versus Jared Gordon, bro. Shout out Jared Gordon, dude. I thought Jared Gordon won this fight. I think he was robbed. Maybe, you know, robbery's thrown around so much these days, but I think he was robbed. Not even a conspiracy theory, but Paddy is the UFC cash cow. Big hype train right now. They're gonna give him decisions. They're gonna give Paddy decisions. It's pretty much the business move. If you follow the Geeks Twitter, we were live tweeting all night, and one of the tweets got some good traction behind it. That was a business move by the UFC. UFC is a business, and that's what they're gonna do. They keep their hype train alive. I thought Jared Gordon won that fight. He did have 3 takedowns to Paddy's 0. Paddy's ground game kind of wasn't there, whereas, you know, you wouldn't think that because Paddy is a ground guy. Not the best on the feet. And the thing with Paddy on the feet, and here's maybe something why the judges gave him this, because, you know, they base it off damage and whatnot, damage over control. And Paddy's chin's like this when he's fighting. And he was just wearing left hooks from Jared Gordon, which were which were landing flush on Paddy. But Paddy wasn't doing this when he'd get hit. He wouldn't go like boom, boom, and stumble. He would literally just wear these punches. And I'm sure that looks good to the refs because it doesn't show much. You know what I'm trying to say? Like if he would have hit Paddy and Paddy's head snapped, place goes wild. But since Paddy just eats him, you can quick to forget about him, right? Because It's just like another strike. So I feel like when Paddy fights someone, and there's plenty of people in the lightweight division, good takedown defense where they can shrug them off and they got some pop in their hands, they're gonna knock Paddy out. So if you are a Paddy fan, brace yourselves. Brace yourself for the next few weeks, maybe even months, because a lot of people were unhappy with this decision. I wasn't unhappy, but I was questioning it. I think Paddy lost that fight, but Paddy's Paddy, so he gets that Dana White privilege. You know what I mean? Shout out Tony. Going up the card. Oh, another thing about Paddy, right? I did want to mention this. One of the judges who judged that fight, Doug Crosby, sucks. Doug Crosby, if you guys are, avid MMA fighters, you would have known that Bellator happened Friday night. Let me see the date, December 9th, I think. Bellator 289. I'll have to look that up, maybe. But it was Sabatello versus Stotts, Rafion Stotts. Good fight, kind of good fight. And I thought Rafion Stotts won that 28-27. And Doug Crosby, not 28-27, 48-47. And Doug Crosby gave that fight 40, 50, 45 for Sabatello. And the other two judges had it 48-47 for Stotts. And people were ripping him on Twitter. Not even ripping Doug Crosby because, these judges are kind of just hiding the shadows, but they're ripping that scorecard. And it was a bad scorecard. How do you get 50-45 for that fight? Clearly not. But it was Doug Crosby, and I see you, Doug. And I hope you watch these videos. Probably not, but I hope you do. But he was judging this fight, the Paddy Pimblett, Jared Gordon. So another weird decision, judge card, scorecards, whatever you want to call it. Doug Crosby's back, and he gives Paddy Pimblett the dub over Jared Gordon. I don't know how that fight wasn't a split decision. First of all, maybe let me take this off. Watch this. Boom. Maybe this audio is a little bit better. I don't know how that's not at least a split decision. Like, no one gave that to Jared Gordon. Maybe Paddy did win the fight, but no one gave it to Jared Gordon. Like, come on, guys. Cash cow, man, prevails. Cash cow prevails, man. Paddy Pimblett win. We'll see who he gets next. I'm sure. I think that was his 4th fight in the UFC. So he's due. He's due to get a dog. Someone lurking outside the rankings, or maybe even a ranked guy. But the thing with Paddy Pimblett, and I did want to talk about this with the Alex Morono fight, whereas Alex Morono coming in on short notice, very good, but that's kind of like what Morono does. Like, he's a short notice guy. There are guys in the UFC who are short notice guys because they're always training. They're always in shape to step in whenever. And some people make a career out of that. But Paddy Pimblett, he's one of those guys that we see him getting this controversial decision, and he's about to go blow up to 210 pounds, 215 pounds, and not fight for months. And he needs a full training camp, and he needs all this. So we're not going to see Paddy for a while. I don't think, maybe he wants on that UK card, probably will. So who knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, just two different type of fighters. I'm sure we won't see Paddy for a while after this decision. So going into the main event, Doug Crosby, if you're watching this, main event, I want to see if Doug Crosby was judging this one too. Main event ends in a draw. Pretty wild fight. They were talking about on the commentary, they were talking about, like, if your bones are like this thick, can you see that? If your bones are like this thick, they were saying Jan Blachowicz's bones are like this thick. And it made sense because he would kick Magomed's leg like a couple times. Let me look at these stats. I've kind of been shying away from the stats. He got way outstruck by Ankalaev, and they're not really showing me the leg, body, head, leg strikes right now. But I don't think he hit Magomed Ankalaev's legs too much. But the leg strikes that he did land were damaging. Like, he was eating up Ankalaev's legs. And I think it was the left leg that was the first one that went for Ankalaev, to where he was hobbling on it and limping on it and was getting eaten up, and then he'd switch stances. And Jan just said, screw it, I'm gonna start chopping this leg down. And he did, to where Magomed had no legs under him. He was limping on both legs, and it looked like the fight might have been ending soon, because Jan was doing damage. Jan had a real good game plan for Ankalaev. But Ankalaev, high IQ fight from him, I think, because once he got compromised, he said, screw it, I'm going for the takedowns. They were getting stuffed, but he eventually ended up getting 2, which were enough. Because I think the wrestling really started up in the 4th round, midway 4th, end of 4th. And he just started wrestling Jan, who Jan's really not a ground game guy. We all know this. I would even go as far to say as Jan's pretty much just a boxer. I know he's a damn good kickboxer, but pretty much just a boxer, power in the hands. And you know what I'm trying to say. Magomed takes him down and just wet blankets him. And then he totally outstruck him over 100 total strikes, but those really came from the ground, I think, to where he was getting those, round 1 of Dricus versus Darren Till that just pinned up against the fence shots. That's what he was doing to Jan. He had Jan pinned on the ground and was just ripping him with shots, to the point where the ref even could have stepped in late in the 5th round. But he didn't. Jan held on. Goes the decision. I thought it was Ankalaev's. I was getting ready to tweet out Ankalaev, new light heavyweight champ. Who's he going to fight next? And then we get a draw. I think the scorecards went 1 for Jan, 1 for Magomed, and then 47-47. I'm interested to see where that scorecard came from, 47-47, like what rounds. But he did good. Both fighters did good. I mean, if it's a draw, both fighters did good. But Ankalaev, just the high IQ of, shit, my legs are gone, time to wrestle, and he's good enough to wrestle. It's not like time to wrestle and you can't wrestle, right? He did good on the ground, heavy shots. Jan held in there, and Jan did definitely look gassed. They got him in the post fight, and he was heavy breathing. And I think that just goes because of the weirdness of the situation. We had Yuri and Glover. Yuri falls out. This Jan Magomed fight was supposed to be 3 rounds. Excuse me. Short notice going into 5 rounds. So, guys prepping for 3, they get 5. It's not unlikely that they're gonna show some gas. So that's what I think happened in that fight. Interested to see where Dana has to say about all this, and fighters. Twitter was ripping everybody, especially at the end of the night. And this sucks, man, because this card was so good. So good. It was kind of like a sleeper. A lot of people didn't think, especially since that main event fell out, that this pay-per-view would be kind of like blah or low-key. But it was low-key banger. Low-key banger. I think it was all finishes until Paddy Pimblett, Doug Crosby, I'm watching you. Until that, and then we got 2 decisions at the end. So really good pay-per-view. Ended weirdly, ended badly, ended however you want to think. But those are my thoughts. Follow with the Geeks, man. We did really good tonight. I don't know the exact record, but we did damn good. And we did have Ankalaev. So if Ankalaev would have won, right, if that wasn't a draw, we would have done even better. Follow the Geeks Twitter. We're live tweeting throughout all the fights. Keep up with us, see our reactions, if you care. But follow the Geeks. We got a lot of content coming out. We do this every week, videos, and we'll see how, interactions do with these post-fight, post recaps, because we just started doing this, but I do like doing it. So I would love you guys to comment, love you guys to like, and even more, I'd love you guys to subscribe. So appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. Deuces.